We'll call the meeting to order. Is there any public comments? See none, move on to the planning and zoning office report.
Pretty slow month. We had five permits with fees, one ag permit with no fee. We had 40 building inspections. You can see the receipts are quite a bit behind last year. And then also we do have a variance request. Greg and Tina Samet, they've been through the process a couple different times, and a dual request. They currently have a kennel license up to 14 dogs where they live now, and they want to increase it to 15 to 19. And they also want to build another building out there, and the rear setback is 20 feet, and they want to have a variance to reduce it to 10. So we have a zoning board of appeals scheduled for August 30th, and then they'll come to this committee in September, and then full board meeting that following Tuesday in September. So that's all the goings on in the world of zoning. It's pretty slow.
Any questions?
Any questions for me? I got to go to the funeral, so.
Need to leave? Got anything? No. All right, thank you.
All right. Do you want to use
Okay, we'll move on. Discussion on easement. Dan Joyce isn't here. So, anybody have anything to add to it at this moment? We're hoping the state's attorney would be here as well. He's not here. Okay. Any input?
A lot of people at the courthouse this morning, it's probably got them tied up.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. Okay, we'll move on. We'll table that for the time being next month. Discussion on conservation area near Willow Slough. Dan Joyce also went on that trip. There's a conservation area that's supposed to be going in up by Willow Slough, and there's some opposition to it. And they were hoping to make the county board aware, and they were supposed to come today, but they're not here. There's some people supposed to come and talk about it, and Dan Joyce is going to discuss the trip.
What's the controversy about?
Drainage, mostly drainage.
Oh.
They come in and cut tile coming out of this wildlife area, and it tends to flood areas that didn't used to flood. So it's mostly drainage, it seems like. We'll move on from there too. Nobody's here to discuss it.
Isn't that conservation area also likely to reduce some of the taxable property?
Yeah, that was the other issue. Thank you, John. I forgot about that. It does reduce the assessed evaluation of the township. The government takes it over, it becomes tax-free. Have a discussion on removing the requirement for elevation certificate when building within 500 feet of a floodplain. We had this brought up a month or so ago by Bob Yergler. Is there any input? Anybody had time to think it over? I think it makes sense, but it doesn't hurt to have, in my opinion, it makes sense to remove it since we're removing the freeboard. But it doesn't make sense to completely remove the certificate. I don't believe, I wouldn't be in favor of seeing a reduction in the number for sure. I don't know about completely removing it, just as a buffer. Somebody wants to build within, say, 100 feet of a floodplain, require it. You never know when that 500-year flood's going to hit.
Well, the purpose of it is to give some assurance that somebody within 500 feet of the floodplain isn't likely to going to flood, or that their elevation is above the floodplain. I don't know what harm is there in having it in there.
Last month, Bob felt that it was unneeded cost. People wanting to build. I mean, once again, it's a good discussion for him to be here and have some input into it. But he had something else more important in the moment. So
I can see the cost, but it's also a cost for the protection of the person that's going to build.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I wouldn't completely be in favor of just doing away with it, in my opinion. I believe the number probably should or could be lowered, but
And if you don't, I mean, if somebody wants to build there and they don't have that information, they could be misled and go ahead and do something that's going to cause some problems down the road.
yeah.
And the other part is, from what, going back through the years, I think it was indicated that the floodplain maps aren't necessarily accurate anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I don't know where you go with that, because there could be some places should be in the floodplain and aren't, or vice versa, some are in the floodplain and shouldn't be in there. It's kind of a difficult situation.
Yeah, I agree. Any input, Ernie?
No.
Charlie, you have any input?
Well, I agree with John, and so many feet back from the floodplain, it could be only 3 inches higher than the floodplain, or it could be 8 foot higher than the floodplain at that distance away. There's quite a difference in what we're talking here, right? So if you don't give me a grade, I can't tell you whether I would feel it was safe to build there or not. So I think you got a big figure because that's what it takes. If you're only going to use one figure, you probably ought to have a sliding scale depending on the slopes. Make any sense? Without that, I'd say leave it back. Then have a hearing on people that wants to have it, and they say, hey, I'm 10 foot above it where I am, and I'm only 10 feet from the floodplain, you know?
Yeah.
Something that's got to be in there to bring it to their attention.
Yep, I agree. Any further input on it?
If there's any chance of a flood, why would a person want to build a house there? I mean, there's really plenty of places you can build a house, and if I thought it was going to be flooded out in 5 years, why would I want to even think about it?
That's another good point. How fast does the water come up?
Yeah.
We had a couple examples of that over the past couple of years where people came in here. One was a fellow that lives out by Mike Chandler, right up that road. He wanted to build right in there.
Yeah, that's all flood.
I know it is, but
You build a $100,000-$200,000 house where you know it's going to flood in 3, 4, or 5 years?
I sat right in the meeting and argued with the guy. He says, why in the world did you want to do something like that? He still was adamant he wanted to do it, so we said, okay, if you're that crazy, go ahead and do it. And then there was another fellow, I can't remember where he lived, somewhere up north here, I think, wanted to do the same thing. So, you know.
It's not like we don't have enough land around here to build on.
Well,
You have any input, Dan?
Huh?
You have any input?
On what?
Yeah. Discussion on removing the requirement for an elevation certificate.
That's why he sold it in dry years. They flooded.
I think it's probably a subject that we're gonna, really probably should be investigated pretty thoroughly.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, and we may not come to any different conclusion, but to at least go through it and examine all the different pros and cons, because like Charlie said, there's that part of the slope there. And, you know, Ernie's saying about,
I think, you know, a lot of times we go on experience, and my personal experience on this, Dan's been out there where I live, they built that block of houses. They never should have let them build there. I mean, when we get 4 inches of rain, I flood out so bad. The guy that used to live there, it's gotten better now, and I don't really know why. Well, yeah, I do. He dug out a pond in front of his house, but he lined his driveway, my driveway, with railroad ties. Said he'd come home from work and get out of his truck and float the railroad ties out of the driveway so he could drive up the driveway. It would flood so bad there. And they never should have given permits to build there. I get a good hard rain, I get 1.5 inches of water running across my garage floor and my barn floor. I mean, it's just, what we allow people to do out there is just not right. And of course, we bought the place in February, so we had no idea what was gonna happen, but I think it's something we should look at
I agree.
pretty closely.
Yeah.
Part of the problem though is that where you live is not in the floodplain.
Yeah, but that doesn't, well, yeah, you're right.
And that's what I
There is.
said earlier before you came in, is that the floodplain maps,
Aren't all that accurate.
exactly.
Yeah, I agree. We'll table this till Bob's here. We can have a little more discussion with him here. Until then, let's back up while Jim's here to the discussion on the conservation area in Willis Loop.
Yes, thank you. It's been a little later than juvenile court. Got here are maps and what, this actually probably should have gone through tax rather than zoning, but what is, there's an attorney for the Friends of the Kankakee. And they want to have, Iroquois County owns the sliver of land that Bob says is not, doesn't even have a PIN number. So this bold little sliver on the State Line Road is owned by Iroquois County. And so they would just like the county to quit claim our interest in this sliver.
And who's wanting to do that?
Pardon? The Friends of the Kankakee Incorporated. It's a not-for-profit corporation. They're trying to reclaim a lot of that Willow Slough land and bring it back into a wildlife preserve. So this is just,
How many of these lots up here do they own?
I don't know how many, but they do own some of
I
them.
know they did,
Yeah.
bought some at the tax sale, but I didn't know how
Yeah.
many. Are there still people living up here on some of these?
I don't know, John. I really don't know. Bob would maybe have a better answer to that.
Was Bob aware of how we obtained it? Was it through tax?
Yeah, through tax sale.
So this is about 15 foot wide,
15 on 1 foot on one side and 34 on the other side.
and it's just an empty lot.
It's just a
No.
sliver of land.
Yeah.
It's not even a lot. It's
Yeah,
not even-
well, yeah, but it's not a road or anything.
No, it's not a road. It's just a parcel that kind of got lost, I guess. I don't know how it ever became the way it is.
Maybe when somebody was platting this subdivision, they wanted to stay away from Kankakee County and
Could be.
use that as a buffer. I don't
I
know.
don't know. Interesting.
It's about the only thing you can see that might make any sense, some
Yeah.
kind of buffer.
Can we make any money off of it?
No, it's worthless. Totally worthless. I mean,
Don't hurt to try.
yeah, it doesn't. But we've, I mean, whatever Ballinger's got into it, they'll have to pay some money. But that's the request of Friends of the Kankakee. I will bring it to the county board's attention and see what they want to do.
I can't tell from this plot what the exact location on this is,
I
but
know.
we've got, I don't know if you're aware of it or not, Jim, but they're trying to take that whole area up there for that fish and wildlife conservation.
Right.
I actually went to southern Illinois last week with the Illinois Farm Bureau to tour the Cypress Wildlife Refuge, where they did basically the same thing down there in Holland,
Okay.
down around Cairo, and there's some pretty grave concerns about this whole deal. Some of the footprint, their drainage district commissioners had a lot of trouble with them limiting access to keep the waterways and drainage clear. You know, he said last week that they're not letting him do anything until November 1st. Which, you know, how much time does that give you to do anything? And the footprint, if you haven't seen it, goes up through Momence and then runs west down both sides of the Kankakee River.
Okay.
And over at Beaverville, it comes down and hooks back to the west and includes both branches, both the big and the little Beaver. I didn't expect this to be in conversations today because they're coming to a full board meeting Tuesday, so I did not bring my map with a footprint of it that I got from the Farm Bureau. But I think we need to consider, what Friends of Kankakee, I think they're opposing that wildlife refuge, and they're probably got some motives there and trying to, have a little leverage against that. I don't really know, but
Right, but it's an awfully small parcel of land for us to have. I mean, I don't know what interest the county would have in.
well, especially if it's landlocked.
Right.
I guess that part of it is one part, but the other part is the bigger issue of what Dan was involved with the other day, and what our role in that might be if we're blocking some of that by maintaining title to that land.
It's up to you guys. That's a policy consideration, not a legal one.
You looking for a decision out of this committee whether or not to turn it over?
Or to make a
Or
recommendation.
to make a recommendation?
Right.
I think it's probably best, are they in huge hurry, it's probably best to go to tax than it is here.
Okay, that's fine.
So, I mean, it could be brought up at the full board meeting, but it probably should go to tax.
And maybe if you want to have somebody from Friends of the Kankakee down to explain what they want to do
That
with
would be
the
good.
property, maybe we can do that.
That would be good.
Okay. And they can show up at the next tax meeting.
Are you going to be able to attend the board meeting Tuesday, Jim?
Yeah, I don't have any trials going on. So I can be.
I haven't. The last I talked to Kyle Anderson, he was headed over to Iroquois County Farm Bureau office, and he was going to ask David to appear before the full board Tuesday to really, what's his last name? He's the county manager for the Illinois Farm Bureau.
Okay.
I can't think of his last name off the top of my head, but I believe he's going to be in there talking about the whole deal on Tuesday, or at least that's what the plan was. I haven't talked to Kyle since.
Okay. Yeah. I was just asked to present this,
Yeah.
so I've got to go
Well,
on the site, so.
If he details out the bigger picture, then you can have a more clear idea on what you're recommending we do.
Right.
It's my opinion
I
on
think
it.
it's such a small piece of land, it doesn't matter.
It may not.
It may not.
It
But I
may
think
be
you can have
inconsequential.
Yeah, you have the picture anyway.
Yeah, we need to have a full
Make that
idea of what's
informed
going on
decision.
before we do anything.
That's fine.
It's not an issue that should have a hasty decision.
No, I don't think so either.
The other thing that I might tell you too is my understanding from going down there is for the federal government to set up a wildlife refuge or conservation area, they're required, and this is my understanding, I could be wrong a little bit, but I know for a fact what they stated was they need to establish the refuge. And in order to do that, they require a private donation of land to get it started. They can't just go out and start, my understanding is, start buying property and turn it into a... So what they did is they got a Dr. Marion Hahn to donate 66 acres to them right up in the northeast corner of Iroquois County, and they've already established this wildlife refuge. And from you being the state's attorney, a couple of things there is, I think the wheels are already turning on this, but one of the complaints they had down in, I can't think of, Johnson County, I think it is, or one of the counties involved down there, 4 different counties, was they had originally established a wildlife refuge. And the laws and rules governing that differ greatly from some of the other government programs. So what they did is 4 years ago, they just arbitrarily changed the name of it to a wetland refuge, and that induced more limitations on the farmers trying to farm within that footprint and so on and so forth, and it's caused more issues and problems with the local residents down there, because they just arbitrarily said, well, we're not a refuge, a wildlife refuge anymore, now we're a wetland refuge. And I guess it's really caused, so there's a whole bunch of stuff going to go on with this that we're going to need to try to be informed on, and I don't know how we can do it.
They can explain it.
Is it correct then that this sliver of land that we're talking about is one of the obstacles for Friends of Kankakee going forward with their plans?
Well, the Friends of Kankakee is in opposition to it because of the area up there in Momence where they want to control the Kankakee River. There's things going on up there. Indiana dredged out the river and straightened it. It's a straight line. And the water flow increases volume up there. And as it approaches the state line, there's a creek, a waterway there that drains in there called the Yellow Sands or something like that. And what it's doing is that water's actually picking up the sand. And as it comes into Illinois, that river hooks. And as it does, the volume, the flow of water slows down. And that sand and sediment's starting to drop out, and it's filling up the river there. So some of these conservation groups are fighting to try to keep that area open to where they can have access to try to keep the river dredged out and cleaned out to where it, but you know, what they told us was they don't know that they've done any impact studies or reports, the government. You know, our concern, I think, from Iroquois County is if they start jacking with the Kankakee too much, what impact is it going to have on the Iroquois? And I don't, the Farm Bureau didn't have any answers, I don't have any answers, and they haven't been able to get Fish and Wildlife to tell them anything. So I don't know, you know, exactly where we're at on it, except it doesn't sound like it's good.
There's also a state wildlife area right up in this area. Where does that come into play with this?
It's going to be part of it. Like I said, I didn't.
But where is it in relation to this subdivision?
It's across the state line, isn't it? That's in the Indiana side.
No, there's Illinois. The Illinois DNR has a state wildlife area.
Well, that's
They'll be encompassed within.
640 acres. That's further west of all of this.
Okay.
A couple of miles west.
One of the other things, Jim, too, is my understanding is up here in Hopkins Park, the mayor of Hopkins Park and their supervisor of assessments and somebody else was there. They've had a group called Nature's Conservancy buying up property up there, and my understanding is they're going to turn that property over to Fish and Wildlife.
Yeah, that's a nationwide organization, a nature conservancy. That's
Yeah.
all over the country.
Right.
So, but you're right, yeah, they're dedicated towards restoring lands to natural habitat.
Yeah, they told us that a lot of that money's coming from the rich philanthropists and conservatives out on the East Coast are driving a lot of that. I don't, just what we were told.
Yeah, that's surprising.
Well, the best thing to do is get them in here. They're going to be in here for the full board meeting to have a discussion on that, and then we'll
The
move.
friends are then?
Yeah, or you can, well, we can try to get hold of them.
Okay.
That'd be good. I can try to make some phone call friends in Kankakee as well, so they
Okay.
can talk about it at the full board meeting, maybe get it on text for next month. So we
They
can,
waited this long? They can-
yeah, they can wait another month.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion on that? Okay, we'll move on. Everybody had a chance to review the claims? Oh, I'm sorry, easements. Sorry about that. Were you able to get a hold of surrounding counties?
Yeah, and that's why I was late walking in. I've been on the phone for the last half hour with the top guy from Eastern Illini. Basically, what he said is these easements have been a mess. For the last 20 years, any new easement they've had signed is recorded. There are old easements, and they're going through these, and as they go through them, what they're trying to find is if they've got these older easements from the 40s and 50s, they're going out and trying to get current owners to sign new easements with them and then recording them.
Yeah.
The Vice President of Operations and Head Engineer for Eastern Illini is Alan Schweizhart out of Paxton. And I talked to him extensively about it today. And I said, well, I mean, in your opinion, you know, do we need to take some kind of action on this? And he says, no, I don't really think so. I'd be more than glad to come and talk to your committee if they think they need me to. But he said we're gradually going through these and getting them updated. And the ones if we don't need an easement, you know, we're letting them drop. But it's just going to be a time-consuming deal, and it's not something that's going to happen all at one time.
Yeah. Just something to keep an eye on that for the future.
Pardon me?
Keep an eye on it for the future and see how they're making progress. And
But they're not the only ones that are involved here.
Well, that
You got a lot of other easements on properties that don't have anything to do with electric. You got oil and pipeline companies, for example. You got landlocked properties where somebody has to have given an easement for access. And I mean, I don't know if there are any of those that have not been recorded, but I think there's some. I think what your whole purpose in this is to get something in place where any easement, in order to be valid, has to be recorded.
any easement, yeah.
And
Otherwise,
I mean, I understand focusing on the electric companies, because that's probably, they may be the biggest one, but the point is, they're not the only one. And even, I mean, like with the oil and pipeline companies, they might have an easement through some property up there by you. They may not have an oil line or pipeline going through it right now, but they hold an easement, and someday down the road decide they want to put one through there.
were you able to contact some other counties? I know we discussed that last time. You were going to contact some other counties about what they had in place.
The only one I've really talked to was John Hall down at, he's the head of the planning and zoning for Champaign County. And the only thing they've got is they've got an ordinance on, a county ordinance they passed a few years ago. And he's trying to find a copy of that for me, but I don't have it. He hasn't sent it to me yet. But what that entails basically is they're passed an ordinance to limit, you know, they don't want to stop them or prevent them, but they've passed an ordinance to where they kind of limit their ability to just come in and start butchering up the property, you know. By Eastern Illini says on secondary lines, all they need to do is cut a 5-foot arc around the wires. And it kind of leaves your, you know, the property and where they cut on these trees, it kind of leaves them looking a little bit odd. And Champaign County has passed an ordinance about it, but I'm not clear at this time exactly what it says. I should have it by our next committee meeting.
Yeah, it could be an issue. We can just keep researching that. We want to make sure we get this right.
And again, there's other issues. To me, the biggest issue is that, like you said, when you bought your property, you didn't know about that.
Right.
When you buy a piece of property,
The title search didn't show it.
you should know everything associated with that property that may affect your use and enjoyment of it. Right?
Yep.
So if you're going to have an ordinance, I think that, again, it gets back to any easement that's valid has to be recorded.
Well, and that goes back to a couple of different things too, that, I mean, there are state statutes that control some of that. And I don't know what they are. You know, we have to,
We need to find out in order to make a good decision.
Right.
I mean, again, it's not,
We need to
not
do more
something
research
that,
before we
right,
do
it's
anything.
not, you don't want a hasty decision.
No, it needs to be done right. If we're gonna do anything, it's gotta be done right. We need to do the research on it.
I think anybody buying property anywhere, I mean, but we're just dealing with Iroquois County. I think anybody buying property here should be able to have a reasonable expectation if they do a title search, that the title search is gonna be accurate. And if we allow people to take these easements and not record them, title searches are not gonna be accurate.
You can't blame the title search company or title insurance company because they can only tell you what's recorded.
What's recorded.
They can't tell you something that's, you know, that they don't, nobody knows about.
And in the case of the Eastern Illini, they are working to correct that. They recognize it's a problem. But like you said, there's gas companies, there's other issues, there's road easements, driveway easements. Actually, in the conversation, you know, he was pretty informative. He was talking about a property down near Paxton where some guy built a house that was landlocked, and the neighbors didn't like the guy. All of the neighbors, like 4 neighbors, and they wouldn't give the electric company a right-of-way to take power to the house. He said that house sat for over 4 years with no electricity to it. So, I mean, there's 2 different sides of this. You have to allow them to do their job and get electricity to people, but if you're gonna go buy a piece of property and there's an easement going across it, you have the right to know it.
And another aspect of this whole thing is that if you require all easements to be recorded, you also have as a companion to that a requirement that all easements that are vacated must be recorded. In other words, like in your situation, if there's an easement recorded back there, and then something changes, and all that electric stuff gets taken out, if the easement is still there, that could be a problem. That easement should be vacated by the property owner, or, you know, there's a procedure for it. It should be vacated, and then that should be recorded also, if you move that easement from the title. So that's something I think we have to look at also.
Right.
I agree. Well, we need to do more research on this. We'll delegate this here a little bit. I'll call the state, and you want to call Fort County and Kankakee and Vermillion, and we'll try to find something on this. So we'll try to get this rolling. This has been on the agenda a long time. We'll make sure we get something going with it, but I'll call the state and see if there's anything in statute.
Okay.
So I'll get a hold of them. So,
He did say, Alan did, that he'd be more than glad to come up here before the committee and
if he could come to full board, if that would be okay by him, and he can have a discussion, he can just go ahead and have it, and give a planning and zoning report, or
this.
bring it up under old business this month, or either place, wherever Kyle wants it, but, yeah, if he can come this month, we'll do it this month, and that'll help move things along, keep it rolling, so.
It'll be a busy meeting next
It
week.
is.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a very busy
That
meeting.
Fish and wildlife deal's gonna take up a lot of time.
We'll see what the schedule's looking like, we'll talk to Kyle on that too.
There's something else that may take a lot of time. A great deal of time.
That's it.
It'd be a good test of enforcing our public comment policy.
If that's finished on the discussion, no more discussion on that, we'll move on. Has anybody had a chance to review the claims? Is there a motion to approve the claims? Moved by Ernie Curtis, seconded by Dan Joyce. Call the roll, please.
Curtis?
Yes.
Sherm?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yeah.
Raymond?
Yes. Any old business before the committee? Seeing none, is there any new business before the committee? Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by John Kerr, seconded by Dan Joyce. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carried, meeting is adjourned.